Yesterday, I signed an executive order officially creating our strategic Bitcoin reserve.
In the last 24 hours, Donald Trump signs an executive order to establish a government Bitcoin reserve. And this was the night before, which is now today, the United States made history by hosting their first ever White House Crypto Summit. This happened today. Very interesting, the attendees that were invited, as well as the tokens that they represent. Watch today's whole video if you want an edge investing in crypto. And click subscribe to Altcoin Daily for a daily breakdown keeping you informed about this space. And let's start with what happened late last night. Promises made, promises kept. Donald Trump signs executive order establishing U.S. strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Today we're signing, this is very historic, an executive order establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve and digital asset stockpile. This is a promise that you made throughout the campaign, and today we're keeping that promise. The reserve will be capitalized with Bitcoin that the federal government already owns, so it won't cost taxpayers a dime. This is like a digital Fort Knox for digital gold. And premature sales of Bitcoin over the past years cost American taxpayers over $17 billion in lost value because we didn't have a long-term strategy.
Right.
Now we do. So.
And this is something you believe in?
100%, yeah.
Okay.
And the whole community believes in it.
Very good. And I made the promise, right?
Absolutely.
So the broad strokes on exactly what was signed and what this means to crypto investors, and crypto czar David Sachs has confirmed that this is accurate. Donald Trump's executive order calls for two separate things: a strategic reserve and a stockpile. The strategic reserve is just for Bitcoin. The stockpile is just for altcoins, and they're different. Listen to what Donald Trump said about Bitcoin and the strategic Bitcoin reserve, and then I'll tell you what this means if you hold Bitcoin.
Yesterday, I signed an executive order officially creating our strategic Bitcoin reserve, and this will be a virtual Fort Knox for digital gold to be housed within the United States Treasury. That's a big thing, Scott. The federal government is already among the largest holders of Bitcoin, as you know. Really one of the largest holders in the world, with as many as 200,000 Bitcoin obtained via civil law and various other forms of law, and including enforcement actions. These existing holdings will form the foundation of the new reserve. Unfortunately, in recent years, the U.S. government has foolishly sold tens of thousands of additional Bitcoin that were worth billions and billions of dollars had they not sold them, but they did sell them, mostly during the Biden administration. Not a good thing to have done. From this day on, America will follow the rule that every Bitcoin knows very well: never sell your Bitcoin. That's a little phrase that they have. I don't know if that's right or not. Who the hell knows? Who knows? Who knows? But so far, it's been right. And well, let's keep it that way.
So essentially what Donald Trump signed into office with the strategic reserve is all the Bitcoin, about 200,000, that the U.S. government already owns, we're going to keep it. We're not going to sell it. So essentially, this strategic Bitcoin reserve is just more of a stockpile. Since we're not buying, we're just kind of keeping the Bitcoin we already have, except Bessent and Lutnick, so the Treasury Secretary and the Commerce Secretary, have also been given authorization to explore means of acquiring more Bitcoin through avenues that will not cost the taxpayers. This is what makes it a reserve.
The Treasury and Commerce departments will also explore new pathways to accumulate additional Bitcoin holdings for the reserve, provided it's done at no cost to the taxpayers. We don't want any cost to the taxpayers.
And when they say no cost to the taxpayers, how would that work? How do we get Bitcoin without costing the taxpayers anything? Well, number one, we could go through Congress. That's what Cynthia Loomis, her proposal to buy 1 million Bitcoin over the next 5 years, will just use the gold we already have in our reserves and convert some of that to Bitcoin. So no taxpayer money goes to the Bitcoin. We just convert gold to Bitcoin, meaning Bessent And Lutnick will probably work with her and get something like this through Congress, but also no cost to taxpayers means the United States mining Bitcoin from a government level is also now on the table.
Do you know of a way they could do it without taking taxpayer dollars? No, honestly,
yeah.
I say that because it's the craziest. I mean, it's the craziest thing I've ever heard in my whole life.
Well, what's interesting to me is that President Trump spent a lot of time with Bitcoin miners on the campaign trail, and it goes to that larger thesis of other countries that are turning either sanctioned energy in the case of Iran or, idle resources into Bitcoin. So that's a way to generate it. And yes, you have like the energy inputs, but some of the biggest miners in the world are based in the United States. Core Scientific has a lot of operations across the country.
And if it goes to 1 million, it's a great idea. If it goes down a lot, it's a horrible idea.
And even if it's a horrible idea, quote unquote, that's just costing the United States energy, right? We convert energy to Bitcoin when you mine. But still, this is a fundamental shift and a huge green flag for other nation states on the United States now has a Bitcoin strategy. Of course, the Bitcoin price dipped on this news, although we are still in the broader uptrend, the higher low. But why didn't Bitcoin explode after this? Well, because there was really no announcement that today we're actively mining or actively buying new Bitcoin. They will explore those means without costing the taxpayers any more money, but just the fact that one, we have a strategy, and two, we are now holding for the long term the Bitcoin we already have. This was expected in a sense because Donald Trump promised this. So that's why we had a little sell-off on the news. It was buy the rumor, sell the news. But fundamentally, like right now, huge green flag for the long term. Traders control markets in the short term. Fundamentals like this affect markets in the long term. So this was the strategic Bitcoin reserve. And yet we also have a stockpile, an altcoin stockpile. The executive order also mandates a full audit of the digital assets currently in the government's possession, aka altcoins.
In addition, my order directs federal agencies to conduct an inventory of all crypto assets currently held by the U.S. government and determine how they can be transferred easily to the Treasury. Non-Bitcoin digital assets will be held in a new U.S. digital asset stockpile where they will be managed properly. My administration also is working to end the federal bureaucracy's war on crypto. All of that will soon be over, and we are ending Operation Choke Point 2.0.
So crypto is safe to flourish in America, not just Bitcoin. Altcoins are safe to build and flourish in the United States. Now, what's the stockpile? Well, if the government already has digital assets, whether they were donated or they just have them from seizures, they're going to not buy on the open market anymore. But if they already have it, they'll keep that in the crypto stockpile. The other is a digital asset stockpile containing assets other than Bitcoin, presumably XRP, ADA, ETH, and Solana, as announced by the president last week and potentially others, although crypto czar David Sachs did just clarify, claiming that ADA, Solana, and XRP were only brought up because they rank amongst the largest cryptocurrencies by market cap. They're not saying these ones will go in. He's saying Trump just said the most popular ones.
Just going into what's in the holding of the US government, going back to what President Trump mentioned over the weekend, talking of Ripple, Solana, other alternative coins, that people are wondering whether they're going to be included in this stockpile. Will they? Does the US own them? Why mention them by the president?
Well, the president just mentioned the top 5 cryptocurrencies by market cap. So I think people are just reading into this a little bit too much. He just mentioned the top 5. In terms of what we'll actually have, again, we have to do the accounting. We're not sure, sitting here today, whether the federal government owns any of these alternative cryptocurrencies. We know it owns Bitcoin. I believe it owns some Ethereum. I'm not sure about the other ones. This is why we have to do the accounting, is that, to be honest, no one's been able to give us a straight answer yet in terms of what the federal government owns. And this is part of the problem, is that we've never really had a digital asset strategy before. And this is why we've, missed out on accumulating a lot of value for the American people.
And that brings us to the rest of the White House Crypto Summit, and also my potential fear in the short term, meaning the next few months, in cryptocurrency. And I'm talking this out with you because I would love to know the Altcoin Daily Army's thoughts down below in the video description. But I'm worried in a sense that this was a big deal. This was such a big deal that the United States finally has a Bitcoin and crypto strategy. And the market didn't really move because it was a little bit of buy the rumor, sell the news. These are things Trump had already been promising for months, and it finally happened. Such a huge deal. Maybe in 4 more months, we get an announcement, maybe something goes through Congress, and we actively start buying Bitcoin. That is fundamental. That's another huge, not shift, but it puts on the gas. It puts on the gas for the United States. It puts on a big FOMO gas for other nation states. But in these next 2 to 3 months, we just had one of the biggest announcements ever. And what do we know? Short-term, traders control the market. Short-term, emotion. Good or bad, but emotion controls the market. And due to Donald Trump's sporadic tariffs and trade war, there is a lot of fear. And these next few months are just unknown on what macro is going to bring us. Will you be shaken out if Bitcoin, after these major announcements, has another 20% dip? I'm not saying to wait for it. I'm not saying that it definitely will happen. I would love, I think, maybe other nation states have started accumulating now, and we get a slow, choppy, but grind upward. Maybe it's a little boring, but it's that grind upward, also very possible. If you're a member of the Altcoin Daily Army, you're ready for this. You understand market dynamics, and you will not be deterred by fear, uncertainty, doubt, when fundamentals only looking better. And as for what happened, the rest of the things that happened in the White House Crypto Summit, honestly, this only lasted about 25 minutes. Donald Trump had his opening remarks, and then they just sort of went around the table, and people could give a comment if they want, and the Winklevi twins over here, and Sergey Nazarov of Chainlink over here. Basically, everybody said the same thing. Thank you, Mr. Trump. You're the man. This is a new era for crypto in America.
I just want to express my deep gratitude for the seriousness with which you're approaching our industry and how you're actually helping guide it in the right direction. I've worked with many central banks in other countries, and when I was working there, I was wondering why I, as an American citizen, can't help the United States financial system reach this higher level that the world is on course towards generally. Right. And so I'm very grateful that finally there's been a new level of kind of common sense and adoption of these ideas. Me and the other people in this room do believe that the crypto, blockchain, Web3 infrastructure is the next iteration of the financial system. And I think that the U.S. should have its leadership position continue in that new financial system. And I'm very, very happy to see people like David Sachs, Secretary Bessent, Secretary Lutnick taking this very seriously with their time, and very grateful to them too. So I'm just overjoyed to see this.
And that was it. Not a lot of new information other than the big information, which is big enough. Now, also, this summit went on, I believe, for another 2.5 hours that was not videotaped. So we don't quite know what the crypto juggernauts spoke to the Trump administration about. I did like this snippet of a video that Brian Armstrong just put out.
Brian Armstrong, Coinbase CEO here. The West Wing is right behind me. We just left the Digital Assets Summit at the White House. It was an incredible event, really a historic moment for our industry, and President Trump has breathed life back into the crypto industry. Coinbase is planning to hire about 1,000 people here in the United States this year as a direct result of his actions already in the first 60 days or so. So these policies really matter.
Fundamental green flag. And that is the video. My name's Austin. If you've made it this far, click the like button if you want to support me. It makes me feel good, lets me know you got value in today's video, and like always, see you tomorrow.